Good evening, and welcome to the June 6th, 2022 meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board of Adjustment. My name is Stephen Spur, and I am Chairman of the Summit Zoning Board. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to a newspaper of record and has been posted here in City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision. And decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. For the benefit of the interested public, this meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube page and also broadcast on Summit's government channel, which is Comcast 34 and Verizon channel 30. Please note that fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you entered. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system here at the dais and return it thereafter. Andy Ball is the zoning board's attorney. He will advise board members on matters of law and is the key interface with an applicant's attorney. Mr. Ball does not vote on the applications. Chris Nicola is a city employee and is the zoning board secretary. Mr. Nicola assists applicants with the preparation of their applications, planning our agendas, and keeping meeting minutes. Mr. Nicola does not vote on the applications. Chris Dower is the board's engineer. You may be hearing from him throughout the course of the proceedings. He also does not sadly have a vote on the proceedings. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Some applications require 5 affirmative votes to be approved. You'll be told which majority will be required before we begin our deliberations. Mr. Nicola, will you please call the roll of the members?
Sure. Chairman Spur?
Here.
Vice Chairman Steiner?
Here.
Mr. Yuko?
Here.
Ms. Newell?
Here.
Mr. Mullen?
Here.
Mr. Millay?
Here.
Mr. Loikitz is excused. Ms. Toth?
Here.
Ms. Sager?
Here.
Dr. Levine?
Here.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
All right, you have a quorum. You can proceed.
We generally hear the applications in the order they are listed on the agenda. We try to have each hearing last no more than 30 minutes, but we do understand that some applications are too complex to be heard within that time frame. Each hearing begins with the applicant or their attorney giving an overview of the application and the variances that are required. We then hear from any expert witnesses the applicant may have to help explain their application and why the variances are needed. The board members may ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, and the expert witnesses. Once the board professionals and board members have completed their questioning, the public will have an opportunity to ask questions. That is not the time to tell us what you think about this application. That opportunity comes at the end of the hearing. Before you ask your questions, please clearly state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address. It is important that our court reporter be able to keep a clear and accurate public record. The court reporting is being conducted over the audio-visual system, so it's important you speak also clearly into the microphone. After all witnesses have been heard, members of the interested public will have their second opportunity to speak, and at that time you may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed and we enter into executive session where the board members discuss the application and vote. You will be able to listen to our executive session, but you will not normally be able to participate in the discussion. Most applications are heard and decided in the same evening. If an application requires additional testimony or information that cannot be presented tonight, we will carry your application to another date, and it will not be decided during this meeting. Krista Anderson, the city's zoning officer, has asked that I remind all applicants that they must read carefully the resolution that documents the zoning board's decision, and to pay particular attention to the conditions contained in the resolution. For example, if a landscaping plan is required, you must obtain one and submit it to John Linson, the city's forester. If a grading plan is required, you must have one prepared by a civil engineer and submit 3 copies along with the application fee to the city's engineering division. Failure to satisfy all conditions in a resolution will result in a delay in approving your application, as it will necessitate additional follow-up from zoning and other city staff. The resolutions documenting the board's decision will normally be available 1 month after we decide the application. Before we proceed with the agenda, if you'll please rise and join me on the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we'll run quickly through the agenda now. Just want to confirm everyone's here and who they have with them to present the application. Starting at the top of the order, 127 Tulip Street, the Griffs. If you just
Chair Delaney, on behalf of the applicant, we will be presenting Mr. Griff, and we'll have backup his wife if needed, and then we'll also have the architect, Corey Fernandez.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next will be 32 West End Avenue. Mr. Ruggiero, hello. Just you this evening?
Just me this evening.
Okay, all right. We'll look forward to seeing you soon. And then 42 Fairview Avenue, Cincadas.
Sarah Cincadas.
Would you mind just come up? Sorry, yeah, for the microphone. She had it easy. She sat in nearly the front row.
I'm Sarah Cincadas. I'm the homeowner, and then I have my architect, Rob Forbes, with me.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And then finally, 11 Portland Road. Is that Tasia? Yep. Hello.
Brian Setback, homeowner, and I have my architect here, Tom Shavat.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. A lot of architecture this evening. All right, Mr. Delaney, you have the honor of being first this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me? Testing.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, for the record, Jay Delaney from the law firm of Lindaberry, McCormick, Estabrook, and Cooper. We're at 469 Morris Avenue in Summit, New Jersey, and also we're in Westfield as well. We represent the applicants, Connor and Katie Griff, at 127 Tulip Street. They're coming in for a relatively modest to build a functional second floor addition consisting of a master bath, mudroom entrance, and usable outdoor space. The architect served notice on the people within 200 feet. We did submit an updated list, and we modified the service to include the 2 additional persons. And we also, the architect filed or published the notice as required by law. So I believe, Mr. Nicola, we've satisfied the jurisdictional notice.
Correct, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. Nicola. As I said earlier, the applicant seek to build a functional second floor addition consisting of a master bath, mudroom entrance, and usable outdoor space. Krista Anderson was gracious enough to submit a written report. We accept her requests on the variances. They're somewhat modified a little bit from what we had, but we have the catch-all language in our notice. So we'll go along with what Ms. Anderson has requested. In terms of the testimony tonight, I will have Mr. Connor Griff, who owns the property with his wife Katie, briefly testify to what he wants or what they want, and also then I'll go through seriatim some of the routine acceptances of conditions that they'll agree to, and then after that testimony, we'll have the architect, Mr. Corey Fernandez. Mr. Chair, if I could proceed and have the witness sworn.
If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Connor Griff, G-R-I-F-F.
Thank you.
Mr. Griff, you and your wife Katie own property at 127 Tulip Street,
Yes, we do.
and how long have you lived there?
We moved in September 2020.
And I was at that property, and it looks like you've done a significant amount of work at that property. Is that correct?
Yes, so far.
And and you're here to do some additional improvements. In your own words, because we'll have the architect testify professionally to what's really being required. In your own words, tell the board exactly what you want to do.
We're going to add a master bathroom to the back of the house on the second floor. And while we're doing below that, the mudroom entrance now is a split level, which makes it very hard to get in and out if you're more than one person. So we're going to raise the entrance up to make it all one level, and then add a outdoor fireplace and extend the patio on the other side.
And you have 2 daughters that live with you there?
I have a son and a daughter.
Okay, I'm sorry. And so you have 2 children, and your wife lives there, so you have 4 people living there. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you've had a chance to review the professional reports issued by Ms. Anderson and the engineer, is that correct?
Yes, I have.
And I'm going to go through seriatim some of the questions or things that they raised, and you can either say yes or embellish it. You're going to put no new air conditioner, is that correct?
Correct.
And you're going to put no new generator?
Correct.
And you're not going to direct any stormwater toward your neighboring properties?
Correct.
And you don't plan to remove any trees?
We do not.
And you understand you'll be responsible for any damage to the city right of way?
Yes, we do.
And you'll take care of any excavated soil?
Yes.
And you'll fix any drainage issues?
Yes.
And you'll work with your professionals to make sure you comply, as the chair said, with all conditions that are given in this resolution, assuming it passes?
Yes.
And before I call, and you understand that there's certain variances needed for this application?
Yes.
And you're okay with those variances, right?
Yes.
And you read Krista Anderson's report, and you're okay with what she requests, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, before I move on, is there anything you'd like to tell the board about this project before I move on with the architect?
I don't think so.
Okay, Mr. Chair, the witness is yours.
Okay. Perhaps we'll start with you, Mr. Dower. Anything you care to address? Okay. Mr. Knight, at this point, I'd like to see us extend as a condition of the application acceptance of the engineer's letter, which is a standard condition here at Summit. Do you object to that, or would you prefer to wait for the architect's testimony?
The answer is, I don't object to it, but more importantly, I'll ask the applicant. Mr. Griff, you don't object to any of the requests in the engineer's report?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any members of the board care to ask a question of the applicant? Understanding an architect will soon be with us.
Yeah, I do have one question. I'm not sure who's going to be best to answer this because it's kind of a technical question. There was a prior resolution from 2007, obviously his prior owner, he said you bought the property in 2020, I think? Yeah.
Correct.
Where there was a lot coverage variance granted up to 47.8%, and the current number on the plans is 50.2, and I'm just wondering how we got from 47.8 to 50.2. Has the applicant done anything since you moved in that would have increased lot coverage, or?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
I'll have, if the architect's prepared to address, I'll have him address it. I don't,
Okay.
I didn't look at that.
Yeah, I just, I mean, it's the kind of thing that I would have thought Krista would have pointed out, but she didn't. I just happened to notice it because I looked at the old resolution and happened to notice it, so.
And we saw her report, and we were not troubled by her report.
Okay.
Any other questions from members of the board? And I'll just ask, are there any members of the interested public here this evening for 127 Tulip Street? I'll check in periodically in case someone sneaks in, but otherwise, Mr. Lane, you may proceed with the next witness.
I kind of
sorry,
have
go
a
ahead.
question. I'd get,
Kind of a question.
kind of, well, I probably best asked of you than the architect. I mean, you're speaking of what's the exterior there as a patio, and looking at these plans, I've in the past seen Krista refer to something this size as a landing, rather than a patio. And given it looks really small, like it wasn't supposed to be a patio, but perhaps at all, but then the survey shows wood ties that are located where you kind of want to, sort of located where you want to expand the paving. Are there
So-
wooden ties there now?
On
What's the
on the
real
driveway
setup?
side,
No,
would-
on the other side.
on the
Where-
other side, right now, it's wood ties
Mm-hmm.
surrounded by gravel and a few pavers that are not, in my opinion, well done.
Okay,
So we wanted to take that area
okay,
and extend it a little bit farther,
Mm-hmm.
and then repave it.
okay. I guess my question is, was that supposed to be a patio in the first place?
I don't know. I mean,
Okay,
it's not a great one, but
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I proceed with Mr. Fernandez?
You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
thank you.
You can sit here if you like, or you want to sit back there.
Good evening.
Mr. Corey Fernandez will be our architect, and he's been quarterbacking the project. Do you want to have him sworn?
Yep. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
My name is Corey Fernandez, Fernandez.
Thank you, and can you briefly describe your background, experience, and 3 boards you've appeared before recently?
Okay. I've been a licensed architect since 2016. Prior to that, I attended NJIT for a Bachelor's of Architecture. I worked with a firm for 10 years before I went out on my own. I recently testified before the Fanwood Board, the Pennington Board, and Bridgewater Township.
Thank you, and you said licensed architect, I imagine, in the state of New Jersey?
Licensed architect in New Jersey and New York.
And your license is in good standing?
Yes, it is.
And we would, Mr. Ball will present him as an expert in architecture.
Any questions from the board, or would you like to accept his credentials?
No questions, we'll accept your credentials. Thank you, Mr. Fernandez.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Fernandez. Mr. Fernandez, you've heard the testimony of your client, Mr. Griff, haven't you?
Yes,
And you've been involved in this project since the beginning, is that correct?
correct.
And can you tell the board your role in the project and what you understand to be the variances and why the variances are justified?
Yes, so when I first started working with my clients, Connor and Katie, the goal was to correct the mudroom because it was on 2 separate spaces or 2 different levels. And Connor has to go out many times and work all different times a day, and he needed a mudroom to be very functional to hold all of his different coats and the 2 kids' coats and whatnot. And the current mudroom was not functioning that way. Also, on the 2nd floor, the master bathroom was very small. There was 20 inches clearance between the existing vanity and the shower, and it was not functioning for their purpose. So the goal was to make the mudroom more functional and to expand on the 2nd floor above the footprint of the 1st floor to make a master bathroom and to convert the existing master bathroom to a walk-in closet. Beyond that, the owners work with a landscape designer on the other side of the property to design a patio space with an outdoor fireplace. The variances, as we understand, are the master bedroom addition exceeds the floor area ratio. The expanded patio exceeds the impervious coverage. I believe the existing building coverage was already in nonconformance. That's what we went in knowing. Then the board notified us that the existing garage would be reduced by 1 foot by adding a fireplace. And I think to my knowledge, that covers it.
And I know you have a drawing up there. You want to describe the drawing, or you feel you could do without it?
Yeah, so I have all the drawings that we submitted as part of the variance application. So this is the existing property survey. And then the next drawing is a grading and drainage plan provided by Morgan Engineering. So they listed all the new coverage and the new coverage calculations. They're showing a limit of disturbance completely in the rear yard, which includes the portico at the mudroom entrance, which is to the south. The 2nd floor addition is outside the limit of disturbance since it's over the existing house footprint. And then to the north is the proposed patio and outdoor fireplace.
Now, with respect to the project, will you be involved in the project to see to its completion?
I will.
And you've explained to the clients that anything in terms of conditions and representations that they're bound by?
I have.
And based upon your professional experience, having testified in at least the 3 boards you testified to in your professional experience, do you believe that this is an appropriate project?
I do.
And you believe the variances are appropriate and can be justified?
I do.
And I've been to the site. It's a pretty nice house, isn't it?
It is, yes. And the improvements we're making are very nice.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the board as to what they should know about this in terms of the variances and the project itself?
One thing I'd mention, it's a Tudor revival house, and we took a lot of care in proposing the new architectural elements to be in context with the existing. So the proposed portico is very in kind to the existing portico, and the architecture also matches the existing Tudor revival style.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the board?
No, I'm available for any questions.
Mr. Chair, the witness is yours.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dower, anything you care to draw attention to?
The only thing and I'm not sure if this is a question for the architect, but I did make a note about the fence encroaching on the neighbor's property. That's, I believe, the only thing that Mr. Delaney did not address.
I didn't address it only because it's been an existing condition since, and if you want the witness to testify to that, fine, but it's been an existing condition since they bought it. It's never been an issue. As we all know, these encroachments really don't become a problem unless someone wants to make it, and they've never had a complaint from any neighbor, and it's basically the existing fence that they had when they bought it.
Okay, that's it? Okay. Anyone from the board have questions for the architect?
Yeah, I just want to expand on the question I asked earlier. I don't know if we can fix it, but there are similar discrepancies in the building coverage and the FAR. So either there was a mistake made in 2007 when the resolution was passed, or some work by the prior owner happened that increased those three numbers. I don't. Would you, the architect, do you have any theories as to what might have changed? Is there anything looks like there might have been beyond what was approved in 2007? I don't know how close you looked at that prior.
Sometimes the definitions of impervious coverage can change. Sometimes it's at the discretion of the engineer to make certain assumptions when they're making their calculations.
I would be amenable to having Mr. Ball in the resolution give us the maximum permitted for the existing situation, so it's approved nunc-pro-tunc, if that's okay with you.
Well, I think we're looking at a figure beyond that anyway, so it's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
moot at this point. I think the
Right.
question is really, do we have any understanding of how that number increased from, we have a resolution granting a variance for the prior percentage. Do we know what happened to that extra 3% that was tacked on since then? or-
That was 2007?
7.
Okay, so 13 years, the last owner owned the property. The slate patio, you can tell, has been there for a while, but the wood ties in that gravel area may have been added at some point. And I'll pull up a picture of that area.
Would that affect FAR, though?
No, that wouldn't impact FAR, that would impact the coverage. I think
Yeah.
you said the coverage is off by 3%?
I see lot coverage, building, and FAR.
So this is the area of the patio being shown here.
Sorry, just Mr. Fernandez, before you go any further, I don't believe these photos are in the board packet. So
No, they're not.
Just ask you, did you take these photos or someone?
I took these photos myself
When did you take them?
a
Approximately?
year ago.
Okay.
Probably
Do they
close to a year
fairly
ago.
represent the property as it exists today?
Yes,
Okay, thank you, sir.
yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
So it looks like the slate patio is much older. It could be 13 years old, the last time an engineer punched those numbers, but the wood tie and gravel area looks like it might have been added at some point after that. The FAR, it's a Tudor house, and the definition to take FAR is, within the exterior walls. It's very difficult because some of the exterior walls come down, there's roof lines that come down throughout the house where you don't have a 7-foot height. You have a lot of crawl spaces in the house. So there could be some discrepancy in how the measurements are being taken with the exterior walls, especially on the second floor.
So, Mr. Wall, is there anything that we need to do? I mean, I realize it's probably moot because you're being asked to go beyond that anyway, and it sounds like it's nothing current applicant has done.
Right. No, it's really, the question is for these figures that are being proposed in the application. If granted, then the prior figures are really moot.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ucko, for picking up on that. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Ball, for the analysis.
I'd like to ask a question. The fence you mentioned, is that on the right side yard of the property where the patio is? The one that encroaches? Or is that on the other side?
It's easier to see on the existing survey, so I will open that up.
Okay. And I guess a related question is regarding the right side yard.
So
What type of, go ahead.
the fence is this one right here that was
I
noticed.
see.
Yeah.
What type of screening does that provide? Does that provide privacy? What type of fence is it?
Do you mind? Yeah.
Just go up. For the record, the applicant, Mr. Griff, is going to take the stand.
The fence itself is probably this high, but
Okay.
on our side of the fence, there's arborvitae surrounding the entire backyard, which are, from 8 to 12 feet.
Oh, that sounds like nice screening. How will having
But by the way, picking up on
patio-
that, I made
yeah.
the same comment when I visited the
Good.
site.
How will having patio encroach within 2 feet of the side yard, though, impact the underlying root structure of those trees?
I don't know.
I think that the whole patio system is, 2-inch thick stone tiles with probably 4-inch gravel base. There may be some minor impact, but I think, hardscaping a lot of times is kind of worked in the field when they're working it, and I think they'll maintain all the roots they need to keep the trees healthy and still get the patio they're looking for.
For what it's worth,
Thank
the
you.
forester didn't have any objections to
Yeah.
the plan.
Great.
Well, and the photo you showed of the existing conditions did a pretty good job of showing the screening. Maybe if you pulled that up again.
Thank you, Ms. Toth.
Just for the record, we're marking these photographs as A1, Exhibit A1. Thank you.
Sorry. That tree that is kind of in there on the left side of the photo is not there anymore. It's now continuously arborvitae for the entire side. And the patio now, where the railroad tie is, the other side of that is the mulch where the arborvitae is, and we intend to, keep that, because I don't want to lose them either,
Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the board?
I know we're talking about adding a bathroom upstairs and not a significant thing there, but we are changing the lot coverage by 13%. Is there over what's permitted? Are there ways and have you considered ways to reduce this to closer to what it is by reducing patio size, whatever it might be, to get this thing a little bit closer to, because it's a very small backyard. I'm just very uncomfortable with 13% over.
The closest thing we came to was knocking off the entire garage because it takes up the backyard, but after much deliberation, the family decided they wanted to keep the garage. So there's not too many opportunities to reduce the coverage.
Patio?
Well, the
Patio
idea,
could not be reduced?
the goal of the project is to expand the patio because it's not functional the size it is now, meaning that
And perhaps it might be a lawn? I mean, it is oversized for this zone. And nothing has been considered to reduce it other than removing that. I also wonder why we're taking a foot off the garage instead of pushing the fireplace outside the garage.
the goal is to maximize that patio space. And splitting the fireplace between the garage and the outdoor space is an effort to do that. We're at the point where every inch matters, every foot matters to the functionality of the patio.
And that's the position of the applicant?
I guess that in order to fit the fireplace and then have seating around it, the patio has to be that size. Otherwise, it goes to around the corner.
Maybe for the architect, is there anything unique to the lot? Is it undersized? Is it configured in some odd shape? Has the home, the physical structure been overbuilt in a certain sense, and that pre-exists the ownership of the applicant? You just described a little bit about the condition. and its ability to accommodate this additional lot coverage?
Yeah, I think the existing garage at the back of the house was added at some point, and it was added without much thought of retaining a functional backyard, or a backyard you could entertain in with good access from your kitchen to the backyard. So that was the challenge of the project, was working with the existing garage.
Is there any other place to, and just entertain my thought here, any other place to move the garage that wouldn't increase the size of the driveway? I assume the garage is in use as well, is that true?
Yeah, well, we did consider, knocking off the entire garage and then putting a detached garage at the end of the driveway, but it would infringe on setbacks.
Well, at the back of the driveway, it's a pretty large sort of turning area in front of the garage. Do we need all of that?
I think the applicant can testify better to that because they're the ones pulling in and out of the driveway every day, but from what they've told me is that, making the turn in the first place, it was hard, even the portico that we're adding is taking away some space that they currently, because they're parking 2 vehicles in there right now.
For comparable houses in the neighborhood, you typically see one-car garages or two-car garages.
I think it's a mix.
And this is a two-car garage, correct?
This is, let me think, 1.5 car garage?
Or a theoretical two-car?
It's a 1.5 car garage, yeah.
So would you say it's overbuilt for the style of home in the neighborhood as an existing condition?
Yes.
Thank you.
On this drawing from the building permit plot and a plan with variances, I see the variances here. Did you miss the 2 foot instead of 8? I don't see that in the required setback. It's mentioned in the zoning officers, but it's not shown on this plan.
Yeah, so I think it's an existing non-conforming condition, so it depends how we define the patio. So right now, they're calling it a slate walk, which is basically the usable patio where you can put a table. But then there's the wood ties that go around that are filled with gravel. So if we call that whole area the patio, then existing, it's closer than 8 foot to the property line. So the goal is to really take what's already there and make it better built and more functional.
Is the variance required?
According to the board, yes.
Should be shown on the plan?
So I think an easy way to fix that is if the application is approved, it would be a condition of that approval, that updated plans reflecting that variance will be submitted to the board.
We have no problem doing that.
Of course.
One more quick follow-up. In the earlier application, I know it doesn't matter to some extent, but we had a number that was lower. In your professional opinion, has anything to the structure, not the patio, not paving, not anything like that, been done that would account for that change to today's number?
Specific to floor area ratio or lot coverage?
Either and or.
No, I think the building the principal building as it is now has been that way.
So
Most likely
therefore,
from
there has to
2007.
be some way to reduce whatever else we put on it down to today's standard. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I had a different question.
Okay.
Just because it hasn't been addressed, the portico states that it's adding 39 square feet. Could you give us a little more detail about what's changing with the portico?
So the portico is being built over existing asphalt driveway, so it's a one-for-one exchange with impervious coverage, but because it's a roof, by definition, it's adding to the building coverage, and it's attached to the principal building. But the idea here is that it's the entrance they use most of the time, because you pull into the back of the driveway, and then you're going to walk into the mudroom, and to have it covered is beneficial.
Okay, I thought you were changing the front door.
No, it's a side portico,
Okay.
so
Okay.
if you see this small gray area, 8 foot by 4'9", that's
Yeah.
the landing of the
Okay,
portico.
that's it. Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board?
And then, yeah, this is the portico that's being added.
Are you also covering the planning portion of this? As to why this is an appropriate change?
The answer is yes. We're hoping
I'm
that...
not sure I heard any testimony to that.
Well, I think he testified to the positive, and I think he testified to the negatives, and the special reasons in terms of the size. You want to embellish what Mr. Steiner has asked?
Please repeat the question.
What are the positives and negatives from a planning perspective as to reasons why this should be considered and approved?
Positives is it corrects existing dysfunctions on the property. So the small patio with the wood ties is completely useless. It's more of a unusable monument on the property rather than something that can be used. And then the expansion of the master bathroom improves the functionality to actually have a master suite in this house. All of the proposed additions are within keeping of the Tudor Revival style. I think it'll only add context and beauty to the neighborhood without lending any deleterious impacts to the neighborhood.
And there's no noise that'll be added?
Correct?
And in relative terms, is this a de minimis request?
Yes.
And we have adequate screening with the arborvitaes so nothing can be seen by the neighbors?
Correct.
And again, this is to improve the quality of the house?
Yes.
And it's to deal with the functionality of the house?
Correct.
Okay.
I heard you mention for lot coverage, the site can accommodate the increase. Just as far as floor area ratio is concerned as well, is it your opinion that the site can accommodate the proposed increase in floor area ratio?
Yes.
And that it can accommodate it without any detrimental impact to the zone plan?
I do.
And it can accommodate without any negative impact to the neighbors?
I do.
And I don't know whether it's appropriate, Mr. Chair, but the applicant has spoken to the neighbors, and they're not here tonight, but they didn't think they needed to be here because they thought it was so positive.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Delaney. Offer one more opportunity for questions for the architect from the board. Mr. Dower, you're good?
Good, thank you.
I'll offer again, any members of the public snuck in as part of the application. I don't see any others. Okay, so no members of the interested public here. Mr. Delaney, I believe this is your last witness. Is that correct?
It is. And I can briefly sum up. You've heard it said before by me, if you have a choice between being brief or brilliant, be brief. We have 3 applications behind us. I will not go through item by item, seriatim, the testimony of the applicant who's agreed to all of the conditions with the professionals. I think the architect laid out seriatim why these variances are appropriate. I have the benefit of having been to the house. It's stunning, and this is just the cherry on top of the cake. It's going to really improve the functionality of the house, improve the beauty of the house, not have any negative impact. I think there's all sorts of special reasons. The site is overbuilt. You heard it from the applicant and the professional. I think this is a beautiful application and will help not only the applicant, but improve the quality of life for them and also be a good symbol for Summit. And I respectfully ask that the board approve these variances.
Thank you very much, Mr. Delaney. I would also note, as In usual course, we would offer the public the opportunity to weigh in as to any opinion, negative or positive, but there being no members of the interested public here, we'll just forego that portion and move on to our deliberations. Mr. Ball, would you just summarize, though, quickly any conditions that have been accrued as part of the discussion?
Certainly. So we have two conditions. First is our usual compliance with those conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum. And second is that since the existing plans do not note the side yard setback variance being requested, the applicants will submit updated plans reflecting that side yard setback variance.
Okay. Who would like to begin deliberations?
Well, I'll start. You want me to start?
You
or-
can start. I was going to call
I think I've made it pretty clear through my questioning that it's really difficult to accept a 13% increase, and I have absolutely no problem with the upstairs. It's perfect, do it. But there needs to be a compromise, and you need to give us something back off the patio and the coverage, and you're not doing that, and therefore I will not vote for this application.
I will respectfully disagree with my colleague.
Go for it.
You know, I think, 13%, if we were talking about something in the R25 zone, I'd be right there with you. The R6 zone, just in orders of magnitude, it just winds up adding them so quickly, and I think we see that in these cases. I think the site itself poses some hardships. The reason for my question about the 1.5-car garage, in those neighborhoods, I think you mostly see 1-car garages throughout Summit in those smaller homes on these small lots. Here, someone decided they needed an additional storage shed in their garage, I guess, and some years back, and that's why we are where we are. I appreciate the need for functionality in a patio. I was there yesterday. I think I caught you going to a birthday party. I looked around at your neighbors' lots, and everyone seems a little bit crammed in. So I don't think this is really going to be anything different than what we already find in the neighborhood. It will improve the use and functionality of the space. It will promote a visually pleasing element, and I can think of no negative effects from this project, so therefore I'm going to support the application.
Okay, who wants to choose between Mr. Mullen and Mr. Snyder's versions of the facts?
Opinions of the facts.
That's right.
Back to the facts. I mean, I'm not arguing that.
Right.
There you go. Mr. Euclid.
Yeah, I'll, if I have to pick somebody, I'll agree with Mr. Mullen. Normally, when I see applications like this, I get a little concerned because there are big variances, and the property was granted variances 14, 15 years ago, whatever it was, and now we're going for more variances. But I think it's true that the changes do improve the functionality of the house and the property. It's not out of line with what's in as Mr. Mullen noted, in the R6 zone. The forester is okay, the screening seems to be adequate. So although it's kind of a tough call for me, I can support this application.
Anyone else care to comment? Noting that this is a D variance, which will require 5 affirmative votes for the D variance to pass. Mr. Millay, looks like you're deep in thought.
I'm still reluctant about the 2 feet indoor 8. I think the patio could be reduced,
Okay.
or should be.
Should be reduced.
I was also held up by that right side yard setback of 2 feet. Then when I saw the illustrative photographs of quite the towering arborvitae and how far they stretch out laterally, and hearing the description about how the thin level layer of mason work that will overlie sort of the dirt and soil would provide less peril to their continued thriving existence, and also the mention of how the conversation with the neighbor went. I think that goes a long way, and that's really the biggest reason why we have that setback is for that neighbor to your right. And if they're okay with it, I certainly am as well. The other variance among the 6 that I took pause, that hasn't really been mentioned in deliberations, was the FAR. Only that it's about 6.4% over the max. And I've heard this board, I've sat on this table and I've disagreed with colleagues who've not granted variances for FAR that high. So I was concerned about how this would go and the reasons. But hearing what my colleague directly to my right explained about the neighborhood and the term crammed in, which I can't say that I necessarily notice about the house itself, it feels to me like it can hold a little more density, the house itself. So for those reasons, again, I believe I'm probably not needed to be one of the voters this evening, but I would be, and I am in support. And if there's anything I could say to influence my colleagues in that regard, I'm happy to provide this deliberation right now.
Anyone else care to offer deliberations? Mr. Gonzalez, you surely will not be voting on the application, but anything you'd like to add?
Number 11.
Thanks for showing up.
Though I will agree with Mr. Milan that it is a good use of the property. I live on a cramped piece of property, and I have the same issue with patios. It's a very good use. So yeah, I would be in favor. If anyone
Not to put you on the
decides
spot, but you'll be in the middle before you know it, so it's good practice. I think just to conclude, I think when I read this application on its face, I was disturbed by the FAR and the building coverage. Then I read things like the engineering letter that saw no impact for stormwater management, no discernible impact that would require us sinking dry wells or anything to that effect. So that's just one example for me of where, while I had enough, I think, 2 applications, 2 variants, 2 sets of variances passed, please don't come back for a third in a couple of years, whether I'm here or not. I think this has been thoughtfully constructed. It's addressed any potential negative impact in a very reasonable way. To Mr. Mullen's point, usability is key for everything that we do. I don't believe there's great waste here. Could you trim back a couple of square feet on the patio? Probably, but I want to see it used. I don't want to see you come back, as much as we enjoy having you here. And I think for those reasons, we could support the application this evening. So with that, do we have a motion to approve the application with the conditions as noted?
I'll move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Liz? Chris?
All right, Vice Chairman Steiner.
No.
Mr. Yuko.
Yes.
Ms. Newell.
Yes.
Mr. Mullen.
Yes.
Mr. Millet.
No.
Ms. Toth.
No pressure here. Yes.
And Chairman Spur.
Head fake from Ms. Toth there. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Bull, according to your protocol, you'll send me a draft of the resolution before it's circulated to the board.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, didn't intentionally.
I think she was counting.
Her hair first one. Yeah, that's right. All right, next up is 32 West End Avenue.
Good evening. I'm Rosina Ruggiero, 32 West End Ave.
And I will swear you in, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And if you could just spell your last name for the record.
Ruggiero.
Thank you.
You can just tell us a bit about the application, and then we'll go kind of couple rounds of questions, and
It
hopefully get you
is,
out.
I apologize, I have no visuals. But you do have the drawings in front of you. It's just a matter of raising the roof over the garage portion of my house to increase floor area ratio slightly less than 16 feet. You might be able to tell from the drawings that there are 2 very long closets. There's a slope because of the way the room is constructed, and it starts out as a normal closet, and you end up going back to about 2.5 feet from the floor. There are 2 closets, as you can probably see. And these 2 closets, there's a window between them. So by raising the roof, it will eliminate those closets or make them normal size closets, normal depth closets. And add, actually, in usable space, it's more than 16 feet because of the space that's between these 2 closets that right now looks like small hallway, and it's useless. It's about 3.5 feet wide, and totally useless space. It will, raising the roof will be in line with the current roof over the second floor, so it brings everything out even. And it will raise the, there's a storage area in the rear of the room, I'm sorry. And it will raise the ceiling height in that storage area, which will increase, the cubic feet to store stuff, so I don't have to go up the attic. And that's pretty much it. Any questions?
Thank you. Let's try not to work too hard on this one. I'm with you. Maybe Mr. Dowers, anything jump out to you that you want to draw attention to?
There's no increase in building coverage, no increase in lot coverage. The only question I had is whether or not there's any additional air conditioning units or a generator proposed.
No.
Okay. And that's it.
And I think on that air conditioner point, there was a note in the Krista Anderson's memo about a previously granted variance for an air conditioning condenser in the side yard. Is there an air conditioner?
On the other side of the house.
On the other side of the house, and that has been in place for
That's been
any
in
number of
place. I've
years?
owned the house for 15 years, and it's been there.
And it's been there, and there's no plans to change that?
No.
Okay. Excellent. And I'll just pause. Is there any member of the interested public here this evening? Sorry, before the board just does the work. No? Okay, easy enough. Any questions from board members regarding this application?
Not a major question. I mean, it's a lot less complicated than the prior case. But I just want to confirm, so there really is no change in the footprint of the house. You're just kind of building up, so it's no change in any of the dimensions?
No change at all. The only reason that I need a variance is because of the side setback on that side.
Right. Okay, that's all I have.
Regarding the left side setback, and this might even be an internal clarification, I saw 2 different sets of numbers in what I read. Did anyone else notice that?
The house
saw-
doesn't sit square
Oh, I see.
on the property. It's skewed slightly. So the front corner is, I think, 11.53, and the back corner of that particular section is 10.5 something, I think.
Yeah, I saw the back corner being referred to as 10.28 and somewhere
Yeah.
else as 9.04. Could that be?
Could be. Let me see. Let me look at this survey, which I have in here somewhere. There we go.
So I think 9.04 is from the application documents.
9.04, okay, so the L shape, is a 1-story addition, which has been there, I don't know how long. That's the 9.04. The 10.28 is actually the house itself, not that addition in the back.
Okay.
Although it's not on here.
This is an unusual lot. Not only is it narrow, but the sidelines aren't parallel.
Right.
So it complicates all the measurements.
Right. And it goes back 350 some odd feet. Which is why I had to send out so many letters.
Do we need to get the positives and negatives?
We're just conferring regarding the measurement, just to make sure that the resolution.
What we can always do is just noting that that is an existing condition. If it is something that needs to be noted as a variance in the resolution, we can always add that in, but just so everyone's on the same page that,
Right.
it's not changing the existing footprint of the home.
Right, exactly, no.
And one of the other things that I noted that Krista mentioned is requesting a left side elevation showing existing and proposed
And
roof
proposed,
lines.
yeah.
Would there be any issue with conditioning this application on the submission of that elevation?
No, I tried to get in touch with the architect, and the reason I'm here by myself tonight is because he's away. And as soon as Chris had sent me, was it Thursday afternoon, had sent me the reports, and I got in touch with the architect, but he'd already left. So he couldn't provide anything for tonight. So making it a condition is fine.
Perfect. And then just briefly, some questions for you on obviously not a licensed architect, but just your informal opinion on this application. I imagine the reason that you're requesting this is to promote functionality of the home. Is that
Yes.
accurate? And do you anticipate any negative impacts on any of the surrounding properties as a result of this application?
No, as a matter of fact, I talked to my neighbor on that side last night and explained everything, and he's got no problem with it.
Okay.
Do we need to include acceptance of the engineer's letter as a condition? Is that already in there?
Yep.
Okay. So that was just, the standard condition is we'll include Mr. Dower's notes, just to make sure that is captured. Thank you for that. Any other questions from the board? All right, polar opposite cases here. I hit the button? I don't know, you might have. Sorry. I'm trying not to move, sorry, a police officer just came into the door.
Oh.
I don't think I hit the emergency button, but you guys, you're on notice back there. I don't think so, I've been pretty still.
Judge's butt.
Cool, well, I think with no further questions from either Mr. Dower, the board, and no members of the interested public present, Andy, if you just remind us of the conditions just one more time, we can enter into deliberations.
Certainly. So the first is our usual compliance with those conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum. Second is that the applicant will submit a left side elevation showing the existing and proposed roof lines, as well as any proposed changes to the existing side window in the bedroom.
Right.
Sounds good? Okay,
That's it?
all right, who'd like to begin deliberations?
I can do this one. Oh,
All right.
no. This is an easy one to support. It's making the house more functional. We always like when the applicant talks to the neighbors and the neighbor chooses not to appear is always a good sign. And clearly, the size of the width of the lot, the siding of the house gives you some hardships, and think this is a minimal change that will resolve some of the problems you've got with your house, stay within the envelope. I can fully support this. Did I say enough, Andy?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, anyone have anything further to add?
I agree.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I can support this as well. This is one of those kind of lots, we've had a couple in this neighborhood where there are obvious hardships, the long, narrow lot, the side lines that aren't parallel create issues. So yeah, and this really is no expansion of the existing situation, it's kind of raising it. Of course, there are no objections on screening. Obviously, neighbors aren't here complaining, so I can support it as well.
Thank you.
My question is, how did you live without the closets for all these years?
It's, I can't begin to describe what it's like to have those closets. And not to be able to put a bed in that room because of the way the door is and the windows and these closets are just, and yet I was talking to a neighbor just the other day, my neighbor 2 houses over, and she's got the same problem. Her house is a different style, but she's got the same problem. So the builder must have come through and just loved these deep closets that go nowhere. I don't know.
All right, well, with that, I too can support the application. I think most every applicant comes before us and says, this is in fact a de minimis variance. In this case, I think you're definitionally de minimis. So
Yes.
with that, then the conditions is noted. Do we have a motion to approve the application?
So moved.
A second? Mr. Millay? All right, Chris, you give us a roll call.
Sure. Vice Chairman Steiner.
Yes.
Mr. Yuko.
Yes.
Ms. Newell.
Yes.
Mr. Mullen.
Yes.
Mr. Millay.
Yeah.
Ms. Toth.
Yes.
And Chairman Spur.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, next up is 42 Fairview Avenue, Cincadas.
Hi, I hope I'm that quick. That was good. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Cincada. I
And
do.
I will
oh,
swear you in.
Oh, you have to swear me in,
If you
okay.
could raise your right hand. Do you
Yes.
swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I
And
do.
please state your name, spell your last name.
Sarah Cincadas, Cincotta.
Thank you.
So I'm the owner, 42 Fairview. We moved to Summit 2 years ago. We thought it was a temporary move, and probably about 6 months into living here in a rental home, our kids looked at us and said they refused to move back to Chicago and they want to stay here. So whatever they say goes. So here we are. We are currently renting in the neighborhood where we purchased. We love it there. And I told my husband if we could find a home here in this specific neighborhood on these 2 streets, Fairview or Oakley, then I will live in New Jersey. And so we started looking. We saw this house about a year ago, and it was owned by the same family since the 1960s and has not been kept up in recent years. And we just thought it was a great opportunity for us to bring it back to life and to be on a street that we love with lots of our friends. So we purchased it, and it is in disrepair, I would say. It hasn't been cared for in recent years. There were deaths in the family. And so our goal is really to bring it back to life, to renovate it so that it fits the neighborhood. There's so many beautiful homes on that street. People have really done a great job renovating and keeping up with their homes. So we just want this home to fit in. And we're also requesting, we also saw the opportunity to add a really modest addition to the home over the existing footprint. The house is small, the lot is small, the lot is non-conforming, it's already smaller than, so I think it's 10,000 square foot is the minimum, and we're 7 and change. So when we saw the home, we looked around at other homes that were similar and saw that there were additions. We thought, okay, there might be an opportunity to do something here. And so our goal is to fit an additional bedroom. We've got 3 children, 10, 8, and 5 months. And so we want space for them. I work from home full-time, so we wanted to find space for an office so that we can make this a home that we can live in for a long time. So that's sort of like the subjective story of the home. And I'm going to pass it over to my architect. Or actually, do you want to ask me questions first?
We'll see, right?
Okay.
Mr. Dodd, I don't know if you have anything. No questions. Any members of the board have questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I have one quick question.
Yes.
I'm sure you noted the forester's comment, just for the record. He pointed out you need a tree
Yes,
removal
we do.
permit, and you recognize that?
Yes, we will get the tree removal permit, and then we plan to add another tree back to the lot in its place.
Good answer. And then I'll just ask, are there any members of the interested public hiding behind the board or elsewhere? Are you here with questions for? I just have a question. Okay, so we'll stop at each point. So you can ask this question now of the applicant if you'd like, or you can wait until the architect has provided testimony. Well, we're going to want to get that on the record, so do you want to ask your question? Yeah, come on up, that's fine. Yep. And we're just doing questions now, so if you have an opinion, positive or negative, try to keep that to yourself. But your name, your address.
Kathy Sprague, S-P-R-A-G-U-E,
And your address?
39 Fairview Avenue.
Cool. And your question.
My question was the tree, and it's the tree right in front. Am I correct?
We're not removing that tree.
Oh, okay.
What would you like us
No,
to
no,
do?
no,
Oh,
no,
okay.
I was not sure what tree you were talking about.
So there's, can I share? There's a really large tree in the back.
Speak into the microphone.
There's a really large tree in the back, and it leans over the house and a little bit over Lucy's house on the other side.
Okay.
So that's the tree we'll be removing.
Just was curious, thank you.
Thank you.
That tree in the front is my daughter's friend's favorite tree, so we promised him we would leave it there.
Okay. I don't think there's any further questions from the public, so we can move to the architect then. Thank you very much. You'll just come up here, we'll qualify you, swear you in.
If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Robert Forbes, F-O-R-B-E-S.
Thank you, and can you briefly describe your background, experience, and 3 boards you've appeared before recently?
Sure. I graduated with a Bachelor's of Architecture from NJIT in 2007, became licensed to practice architecture in 2014. I've been working locally in the area ever since then. I've appeared before this board within this past year. I've appeared before Florham Park, East Hanover, and numerous other boards also.
And licensed in New Jersey? still
Licensed in
good
New
standing?
Jersey in good standing, correct?
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Would you like to accept his credentials again?
No questions, we'll accept your credentials. You may
Okay,
proceed.
I think maybe before I really get into it, I just want to clarify a few numbers that I think are a little different than the submission and make sure that it's correct for the record. Thank you for the extra 2 square feet in the lot area. So I will proceed with the 7,276. We accept that. The proposed front yard setback of the new front porch that we're proposing, the front yard is kind of kicked on an angle. The 27.3 feet is in the right corner, but it's not the worst condition. The worst condition is by the driveway. And that actually was kind of triggered by us over here as this 26.43. I think we should keep the closer number, I think.
That was for the front yard, you
Front
said?
porch, yep.
Okay.
Front yard
20
setback.
26.43.
26.43 in lieu of the 27.3. The proposed left yard setback of 9.66 feet, that's correct. Coming from where this addition is indicated on the second floor, there is a small portion of the roof in the front above the garage that is being lifted, and that is why we had noticed 7.59, because that existing non-conforming condition was being extended. I think maybe we should keep that too.
There's 2 numbers in the memo right now, but go ahead.
Repeat that number again?
The number on the left side that we had on our application was 7.59
Okay. Versus the 9.66 that,
versus the 9.66. They're both noted on the plan, and I'll go over that. But,
okay.
The proposed building coverage, I had omitted the rear stoop, so the increase to 21.92% is correct. It's actually, the stoop is 14 inches out of the ground, so it's just getting into that 12 inches out of the ground. And everything else, I agree with.
Thank you.
Okay, so just starting off, this is 42 Fairview Ave, block 1703, lot 17. We have a severely undersized lot. The lots are required to be 10,000 square feet. We are at 7,276 square feet. We also are required to have a lot width of 75, and we only have a lot width of 60. We also have a very irregular shaped lot, which is really the reason we're here, are all these existing conditions that are creating some hardships for us that are hard to work around. As she said, the house is not in disrepair. It can be repaired. It's going to be fixed. But that's why we're here, asking for some relief. So we are really, I'll walk through the floor plans, but let me go through the site plan quickly. We're really just on the first floor proposing to renovate the inside of the space, which I'll walk you through. We're proposing a new front porch. It's all within what would be the 6-foot encroachment. We're actually even less than that, which I'll work through. So we're not pushing closer to the street than that. 6-foot encroachment would allow. And then we're also really renovating this rear patio. We're taking it up, we're actually making the patio a little smaller than it currently is. And there's this oak tree that Sarah's referring to is like the old patio was designed around the oak tree. It's in the middle of the patio. It's just not functional. It's too close to the house. And then we're adding some second floor space really to try to get Sarah that extra bedroom upstairs for her newborn. And we're adding a new master bathroom, which I'll walk you through. So we're excited about this. When I first visited the house, you could tell it kind of had a previous addition that really wasn't really thought out well in the rear of the home. Large one-story roof lines, not that sightly to look at. So we saw this as a great opportunity to kind of take this house that still was very compartmentalized. It was originally built in 1951 as a side hall colonial. We're leaving the one-car garage, adding access to a new mudroom. One of the variances they talked about is us encroaching into that garage, which is already, it's at 19 feet, we're encroaching by a foot to get these cubbies into the mudroom. The concept is that these cubbies would not go all the way to the ground. So there would still be some storage space underneath the cubbies, or if you really had an extra long car, I guess you could park it under the nose of the car would be that way. So we're trying to really get the bicycle storage and also the indoor storage for the mudroom while also giving the potential for a compact car to fit in the garage. We see that as a very minor variance for the case, something that I had not noticed. Then we come in, we're kind of getting rid of this compartmentalized feel. We're creating this big open family room, new kitchen, connecting to the foyer, dining room, powder room, bar. Again, there's no real addition to the space. The only addition is this front covered porch. This line that you're seeing there, that's the 30-foot required front yard setback. So you guys allow an encroachment of 6 feet for front porches up to 50 square feet, right? The 6 feet would go way past that. So we're not encroaching any further than that. The problem is it's a front porch, not a front portico, so it's a little bit over the square footage of the 50 allowed. But we think it kind of promotes being part of the community, helps stress the facade, which I'll
Excuse me, could you speak a little louder?
Sure. As we come up to the second floor, this is where the primary addition's occurring. Currently, it's a 3-bedroom second floor with a small master bathroom and a walk-in closet that you walk through from the master bedroom. We're actually moving the master bedroom over to garage. We're leaving that floor depressed down, which I'll talk about on the elevation, how it helps to push the roof lines down. And we're converting that back closet and bathroom into that extra bedroom for Sarah's newborn. The addition that's happening over the existing family room is really for walk-in closets, a master bathroom, and the new hall bathroom that we had to get rid of in order to pick up the space for that bedroom. This is this area in the front here that just gets lifted a little bit that I was talking about with that side yard setback. The 9.66 is happening here where the addition starts, but this little lift in the front, which I'll look at on the front facade, is where that's occurring. So here's a new front facade. We actually extended the overhangs a little longer to let the house kind of sit a little lower and allow me to leave the front master bedroom over the garage sunken down. And it allows me to pop these 2 dormers and create this kind of balanced, symmetrical facade that we think is very compatible with the neighborhood. Here's the old roof line on the side of the house that you can see here. This is that little lift that I'm talking about that's coming through. It allows me to get rid of most of that 1-story side building, but that's still existing right there on the side of the family room because we're trying to set in to get off the facade. We didn't want to add over the whole first floor. Here's the new back facade. You can see lots of glass. This is where you come down to the patio. That's the master bathroom above. Here's the side of the new front porch. I do have 2 quick exhibits I can walk you through. I took all these pictures. These pictures were taken when we first started the project in the fall. The other pictures were taken today. So this is the front facade. Just wanted you to see a picture of the current house. You can see this dormer already kind of exists here, right? But we're just kind of lifting that, carrying this across, carrying this roof line across, and adding some detail to modernize it. There's this big 1-story roof in the back, which I think was poorly done. Then I wanted to just get a picture of the zoning map here. You can see we're in the R10 district. We're right on the edge of the R10 and the R15. You can kind of see here how small our lot is, kind of small for the R10 zone there. This is the tax map. I just wanted to pull up to show you where our lot is. You can see how it's irregular. I was there today, And I was driving on the street, and I noticed a lot of the houses looked like they were closer than ours. And I know the front yard average does not apply here. It's only for new houses. And if you're less than 30, it would not apply anyway. But I just wanted to get a context of where we're pulling this front porch out to. So I did do an average setback calculation of lots. I'm going to say lots 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. We're lot 17. Lot 16 is heading towards Beekman Street. It's on the corner. And then I went 3 down on our side of the street, just to kind of be compatible with how you do your neighborhood prevailing setbacks in the ordinance. And I actually get an average setback of 24.28, which is much closer than even where we're pulling this open porch to. So we really feel like this porch is adding value to the street. It also, there's some porches down as you approach Springfield Avenue. Some of the older homes on Fairview Ave have these porches, so we feel like we're pulling that vocabulary north, kind of towards Beekman. And then I have one more, we want to tag this?
Mark is A1, yep.
A1. Also, one other interesting thing, even though this lot's undersized, it has most of these lots are 50 feet wide. This lot's 60 feet wide, even though it's undersized because of how it's irregular. So we feel like that extra width really helps to accommodate the extra FAR and the extra bulk that's happening on the front of the building. Just didn't want that to get lost. And then I just took some photos of the existing streetscape. So if you're coming from the corner of Beekman, this is the first house. It has a front porch on it. Okay. This is the site, 42. And then this is just working down towards Springfield, and I stopped at 24. I just wanted you to see the variety of buildings, the variety of masses, the different scales of buildings, right? This is probably the biggest one on here, the last one that I got to. These are some of the older ones, right? And you have more of the kind of post-war buildings as you kind of get north. That's it for me, I think. Got some questions.
Pictures were taken.
So we said these pictures were taken today.
These were taken today?
We'll call this Exhibit A2, and then the Exhibit A1, the prior, was taken in the fall, September, October,
Yes, probably
2021.
earlier, probably November.
November, okay, November 2021.
A2, correct?
Yep, that's correct. And I want to make sure that we're capturing questions with regard to the FAR variance. Andy, are there any particular points in your consideration here that you'd like to see included in the resolution?
I know you just briefly mentioned the site can accommodate the proposed increase in FAR. That's your expert opinion, correct?
That's my expert opinion. I also should have mentioned that if our site was 10,000 square feet as allowed in the zone, our FAR would actually conform. So we are not trying to be the biggest house in the zone or the biggest house in the neighborhood by any means.
Any negative impact on the neighboring properties?
None.
Pretty good. Straight shooter. Mr. Dower, anything you'd like to press on?
Just 2 questions. One, the patio, just to confirm that the patio is less than 1 foot above grade.
The patio is sitting right on grade, very similar to the existing patio, which I have a picture of. You can see currently how you come down from the house, you go down 2 steps and you're sitting right on grade. So our new stoop would be wider, but the patio itself is right there, and you can see the tree. That needs to come out, unfortunately.
Questions from members of the board for the architect? None? Mr. Yuko, anything catch your eye?
No questions, no.
Okay, that's good. Any questions from the interested public? You're welcome to it, if there's anything. No? Are you okay? All right. No one hiding behind the board back there for this application. All right. Okay, and I believe that's your only witness, is that correct? Excellent. All right, that's your guy. All right, fair enough. Would you like to come back up and say anything in conclusion? You're not required to.
No, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Very strong close. I think the only conditions that I would note is acceptance of the engineer's letter. So as you've heard this evening, that's a pretty standard condition. Is that acceptable for you to have included in the resolution?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you want to capture? No? Okay. We worked so hard on that first one. I'm struggling here to, push it forward. That's okay. All right, then with that, we can begin deliberations. Who would like to begin deliberations? We're working hard over here tonight. Anyone? Liz? How about Liz? You've been quiet.
I think it's, I have very similar style house, and I understand the functionality of making sure it works with your family and the new addition, and it's very, minimal work that needs to be done. And it is an odd-shaped lot, especially for that neighborhood. When I was walking around, I'm like, oh, gee, because when you walk, you don't realize until you go back. So I would be up to, to approve this application.
Okay. Anyone care to add to the deliberations? Yes.
I agree with you. So for an undersized lot, it's notable to me that you're not asking for a lot coverage variance. So there's a lot of restraint there in the choices you made, and you're achieving the functional goals you set out to achieve, and you're still, keeping the level of impervious coverage within what is allowed. The building coverage is small. It's not a big. That's a small variance in my mind. And I think the most notable variance, among them is the FAR, again, being several percentage, 5, 6 or so %. But I think as you described how the irregular shape and the increased width of the lot in the front helps to sort of absorb, or it doesn't create the look of it being too crowded or dense or too much building mass on the piece of land, and I do agree. And I also just, on a personal note, I really enjoyed hearing you as a homeowner, how you described why you chose to live on the street and your connection. It was very palpable how much this house means to you, and how, I really feel like all your intentions are very good. So for all those reasons, I would approve this application.
I can just add a couple of points. I'm impressed that you're reducing the size of the patio. And I think that the new front facade of the house really pulls it together, looks consistent. It's a large improvement. My only qualm is that I'm from Chicago, and I can't imagine your children's opinion.
Anyone else care to add anything further to deliberations? And sorry, ma'am, the public also has the opportunity to comment on this. You seem like you had your questions answered. Do you want an opportunity to speak, share an opinion?
No.
Okay. I'm sorry, I skipped right through it, but all right, we're going to just swear you in briefly. You can speak your mind, speak your piece, and then just make sure we'll get a full
If you
record.
could raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Kathy Sprague, Sprague, and I'm at 39 Fairview. And I just came as a, support for this. I've lived on 39 Fairview since 2001, and I knew the Millers for a long time, and I know that Mr. Miller, may he rest in peace, is all for this. And I just think it's just so good that families moving in with lots of kids. There's lots of kids on that street, and it's just will be a great improvement. So,
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. All right, not to allow Ms. Sprague to be the 10th board member here, but anyone else care on the board to offer any further deliberations? Okay, I too can support the application. I think Dr. Levine's comment about restraint is apt. This is a very thoughtful, well-prepared, you chose a great architect. I think you did a very good job addressing the usability needs for your family and future owners of the home. It certainly suits the character of the community. It speaks to the challenges, the very real challenges of the lot size and dimension, and is, again, restrained in that respect. So hopefully for everyone sitting at home watching this application, this is a great example of how to work with this board. No pressure to the 4th application tonight. But yes, thank you for your restraint, and I can certainly support this application. Thank you. So with that and the conditions as noted, do we have a motion to approve the application?
Moved.
Okay, a second? Second. Chris, you give us a roll call?
Sure. Vice Chairman Steiner.
Yes.
Mr. Yuko.
Yes.
Ms. Newell. Mr. Mullen.
Yes.
Mr. Malay.
Yes.
Ms. Toth.
Yes.
And Chairman Spur.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Quick question.
Yes.
Paper or TV? Which one?
He's going to want the paper.
Paper better?
Yeah, be better.
it was referred to, so.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a brief 5-minute recess, stretch our legs, and then we'll get to 11 Portland Road, where the night is young.